Hey, Aaron here, coming back to you with some more training on Juniper jncia-junos. This will help you in your pursuit towards the jncia-junos certification or just getting to know Juniper equipment at a entry level. All right, if you look over here at, excuse me, I was looking at something else a moment ago. If you look at juniper.net, you'll find that Juniper has revamped their webpage, a nice new look and feel. Click training. You can get to their certifications in a variety of ways. If you click certification tracks, it takes you to an immediate, nice layout of all their different tracks of study. They got a lot of different tracks. And so at the associate level, that would be the entry level, you have all these different associate level specialties. Well, you'll see that jncia-junos is in 3 places. So it's the prerequisite entry level certification for the data center track, for the enterprise route switch track, or for the service provider route switch track. So if you want to get deeper into data center or enterprise route switch or service provider, you're going to have to get this jncia-junos certification. All right. And if you get 3 or 4 of those associate level certifications in that column that I mentioned, you get this this 3A certification. Myself, I have 3 associates: jncia Cloud, jncia Junos, and jncda, a design associate. And so I get this triple associate designator. That's kind of nice. If you get 4, you get a 4A designator. I think they also offer that like 3P or 4P for the professional level and also for the expert level. All right, so we're going to be getting into some of the systems administration configuration, and this is following other videos that I've been putting out. It's kind of a progression of things. So if you're just joining me on this progression of videos, I'll link the initial ones in the comments below, or the cards, the pop-out cards, so you can catch up to where we are. And so to show you where we are going to try to target this video, jncia-junos is clickable in one of 3 places, as I showed you previously. So click on jncia-junos, and we get the exam blueprint here. So I've showed this in previous videos, but if you're just joining us, this is a nice thing for you to be looking at if you want to be well-rounded as someone who is getting well-versed in the entry-level material surrounding the Juniper operating system and their products. Or especially if you're going after that certification, you're going to want to be very familiar with this blueprint of all the exam objectives, or you could refer to them as topics. So in this video, I'm going to start going through these configuration basics one by one. We're going to go through this list right here. And so just so this video doesn't run too long, we are going to get started on this list of bulleted items, and we'll see how far we get. But look for follow-on videos for a complete coverage of this configuration basics group, as well as these other ones. I'm going to be making an effort to create videos for all of these different topics so that I can try to help you get through all of the material in your preparation for jncia-junos. Here's our lab environment where we're going to be going over some of these topics. And you can see I have a virtual MX. This is EVE-NG, emulated virtual environment. I have plenty of videos to introduce you and to get you going in the right direction of creating Juniper routers in EVE-NG. I'll link to those videos in the cards and comments below so that you can look at that. I don't want to spend too much time on that right now, but as it stands right now, you can see that I have a VMX, which is comprised of a control plane node and a forwarding plane node linked together by their EM1 interfaces. I have an external router that we might use later on to do some basic testing. That's a Cisco iOS router. So just wanted to introduce you to the lab environment. Now, I'll show you that on this router in the lab, it is named MX-01. You can see that on the login prompt here. We're on the console. This is an emulated console. Root is the username. And Juniper devices come with a default account, root. You need to create a root password. Now, you can see that I had to type a root password. Normally, you would not have to do that in a factory default state. I've already created a root password, and I've already given this router a name, MX-01. So often in your administration of Juniper devices, you will need to give it a clean slate, wipe out the configuration, and factory default it. There's a few different ways to do it. Request system zeroize is one of those ways, and I will caution you right away with using this. Request system zeroize. All right, now if you use this command, it will destroy any licenses that are on this device. If you have licenses that enable, for instance, 10 gig interfaces, I think an MX104 needs a license to enable some 10 gig interfaces. And so I recall that doing this blows those licenses away, or other licenses that Juniper may have available. You just want to be aware that request system zeroize factory defaults the configuration, but it does a lot more. It'll blow away those licenses, and if you do that, hopefully you have access to those license keys, and you can quickly get this system back up and running with the required licenses that you need, okay? Another thing request system zeroize does is it blows away all the local log files. The interactive log, the syslog, the local messages files. We're going to get into what those log files are, but for now, I just want to make you aware that this command, request system zeroize, will get rid of all your archive log files. Okay, these are nice things that you may want to do, but you may not want to do those things. So I'm not going to use request system zeroize. I'm going to go into config mode, and I'm going to load factory default. Load factory default. This gets rid of the configuration, but it doesn't get rid of all those log files, and it doesn't get rid of license keys. Okay? So load factory default. Show pipe compare shows the pending changes that have not yet been put into action. You may recall from a previous video where I talked about you need to use the word commit to actually put configuration changes that are pending into action. So it's very nice how Juniper has the delineation between these two things. So again, show pipe compare will show us our pending changes. Okay, so this is showing us a line-by-line listing of minuses and pluses. The minuses are things that are going to be removed from the configuration once we type the word commit. The pluses are things that are going to be added once we type the word commit. All right? So we type the word load factory -default, and it's removing the host name, and it's going to remove that previous password, and it's going to remove some things that were done to the FXP0 management interface. We'll talk about those management interfaces later. But so we can see a few things that are going to be added and removed. So let's commit. Now, the reason it fails is we're missing a mandatory statement, root authentication. So one thing that you have to have when you issue a configuration commit in a Juniper device is you have to have a root authentication method defined and a password. So let's do that. Set system root authentication, plain text, and enter a root password. Now when we commit, we'll see what it does. Now, I will tell you this, that there's a way of checking the sanity and whether your syntax is correct or not by doing a commit check. And the commit check will come back and tell us that the configuration is going to succeed. It's kind of like doing a dry run on your commit. So we know it hasn't committed yet, because if we do show pipe compare, well, it still tells us there's pending changes. Now you will see also now we have the minus on the encrypted password for the root account because we're removing the previous one from the load factory defaults, but now we have just set a new one, as we can see with that plus sign there. So now we can commit this, and the commit will succeed. And now, if we want to look at the config, if you just simply type show when you're in configuration mode, it will display the actual configuration. So another way to display that with show pipe display set, it shows the configuration in more of a line-by-line set syntax. I like looking at it this way because this is how I type the commands. All right. And so we see in here that there's no set system hostname anymore. However, the router's hostname is still here. So this is kind of weird. If we exit out, exit all the way out, we see that the hostname is still there. This is because once you factory default a Juniper device, the hostname is retained until you reboot it. So let's go ahead and reboot this and give this a clean startup so that we see what a Juniper device looks like when booting up with a clean slate with no configuration at all. The way you reboot is request system reboot. Then you type yes. The default, your two options are yes or no. In parentheses is the default answer. So if we were just to hit enter, well, the default answer takes effect and it does not reboot. So you need to pick the other option by typing the word yes. And now it's rebooting. System is going down immediately. And so we'll give this some time to reboot. Okay, now after it's rebooted, we have these messages. Auto image upgrade. It tells you if you want to stop this from occurring to put in that delete chassis auto image upgrade command and then type commit. We also see on the FXP 0.0 interface that we have a DHCP client that is trying to attain an IP address or acquire, trying to get an IP address. Okay, so let's log in. Now we have no root password. Interestingly, even after we set one, I'm actually surprised. Show, type compare, show display set. And interestingly, it actually removed that root password. So we will reset the root password, and also we will turn off these things that are occurring right now. Okay, so we see that on this interface, there's a DHCP client on the management interface. So let's copy all the way down to DHCP, type the word delete, paste that. All right, delete interface FXP 0, unit 0, family inet DHCP. And we will also turn off that auto image upgrade thing that is going on. Where is it? There it is. Delete chassis auto dash image dash upgrade. All right, so show pipe compare shows us our pending changes. And let's commit that. And it completed. Okay, if you exit all the way out, log back in. And so let's also set, we have to enable the CLI. Let's also set the system hostname, MX -01 and commit check that. Now it's telling us you need to enable the root authentication. So I think that since we set the root password during the process of load factory dash defaults, I think that's what it is, load factory dash default. I think since we did that all at once, it actually removed the root password. So now after setting the system host name, it is wanting a root password. So set system root authentication plain text. And now if we commit check, it will successfully complete. So let's commit that. By the way, I'll remind you, when we logged in, the login prompt here says amnesiac. It's kind of funny, the router has amnesia when it doesn't have a host name. Let's commit that. Let's exit all the way out, and we will see now there is no amnesiac designator there in parentheses. You actually have the system host name. So that's how you set a host name. That's how you do a couple configuration things with removing a DHCP client from the FXP interface. That's how you stop the auto image upgrade process. And this is all following a factory default. This is what it would look like when you take it out of the box, or when you start up a EVE-NG virtual MX, or a virtual SRX, or a virtual QFX. You know, any kind of default state of a Juniper device. And you know what, I do want to point out that it's really nice how Juniper's Junos operating system, once you get familiar and able to navigate and get around in a Juniper system, you will be capable in many of Juniper's platforms. Their PTX, their MX, their QFX, their EX, their ACX, their SRX. You will be capable to navigate and do systems administration and basic configurations at a JNCIA level with the JNCIA Junos certification, because Juniper stays true to the one operating system concept. Now, I'm not saying that every one of their platforms support all the same feature sets. Like an MX supports a lot of layer 2, layer 3 VPNs, a lot of service provider type of things. And then you have, for instance, an SRX that is definitely their security firewall platform that supports a lot of other things related to firewalls, stateful firewall, that you would not find on an MX or an ACX or an EX, okay? But navigating the operating system is very much the same in all of their different products. So now that we've factory defaulted this thing and we have given it a root password, set a system name, let's get back into this. I want to show you the basic log messages. Show log messages file. Hit enter. It shows you a syslog local syslog file where a lot of the system logs are maintained. Okay, I'm going to show you something. Show system uptime grep current tells you the current time. It is July 22nd. Now, we know we just factory defaulted this thing, but I told you that loading factory defaults does not get rid of local log files. Request system zeroize would have gotten rid of local log files. So we see that our show log messages file is showing us messages from July 19th, even though we just factory defaulted this thing on July 22nd, proving that the log messages are retained even while you do a load factory defaults. So let's look at this again. Show log messages, hit question mark. And the log files will roll over when they reach a certain size. So you see that there's another one. The one that's in use currently is the one with no extension. It's the file named messages. And the one that's rolled over is shown with a .number.gz. So first, the first file that's archived is .0.gz. The next one is .1.gz. The one after that is .2.gz, and on it goes. Okay, so again, these are normally rolled over and archived with a number and a .gz extension due to a size constraint, but there's also another reason why this could occur, and we'll get to that in just a moment. And so you can have several of these, like I said. Currently, we only have one. And so you have these log messages. You also have chassis D log messages that show other things. You have another type of log called the interactive log, interactive-commands. This is really nice because it's a local archive of all the commands that have been typed on this system and the user that has typed the command. In this case, we just have a root user, so it tells us the root user has typed this command, show log messages at this date and at this time. Okay, let's see how many show interactive commands files we have. Well, there's another one, .0.gz, and you can look at that, show log interactive commands .0.gz, hit enter, shows us all the way back to June 8th. Now, let's go back to the current one. Again, the same thing applies with all these files, that the current one is the one without the .number.gz extension. So you can use some of the basic Unix pipe grep commands, or just hit a question mark. You can do except or find or last, no more, and things like that to further filter your output when looking at log files. Okay, so if you're new to the Unix world, some of these things are going to be very interesting and new to you, or they'll be old hat for some of you Nix administrators. So if you type last and a number, it'll show you the last 10 entries in that file. So show sys uptime, pipe grep current, tells us the current time. You guys might think I'm crazy if I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:43 a.m. in the morning making videos, but this is universal time. So I'm in the central time zone. I am not up at 3:45 in the morning making YouTube videos. So we'll show how to set the time correctly later on, but for now we can see that some of the more recent commands we typed only a few moments ago is in fact that same command that we just showed here. That command is actually thrown in as the last entry, show log interactive commands pipe last 10. So it's really nice to be able to go into the interactive commands log file and do a accountability of what commands were typed, especially if you have problems on a device and you want to backtrack who typed what. You can go in here and find out exactly what was typed. Okay, if you want to look at set commands, the configuration commands or edit commands, you can show log interactive commands, and you can grep set. So let's grep all of our set commands, and we will see that, well, you know what? We're actually seeing hits on anything with the word set. Probably not specific enough. Let's do it this way. Put parentheses around, quotations around it when you want to get multiple search strings. So we will look for the word command and that apostrophe and the word set. Put a close quotes. Now we are getting every command for a configuration set activity command that was executed in the config mode. So now we see every set command that was typed, and we can do an accountability of configurations that were done. Now, since load factory-defaults doesn't get rid of log files, you might at some point want to free up space on the memory chip or the solid state drive in this router by purging or getting rid of some of these log files. There's a command that actually goes through and gets rid of storage files. Request system storage cleanup. It will clean up some of your temporary log files, and it'll rotate your logs. So you could do this, and you can also do a dry run to see what the candidate files are that are going to be cleaned up. So let's hit enter on this, and let's see exactly what the request system storage cleanup would actually accomplish if we were to run it. And so we see it's going to be the list of files to delete are as follows. It's going to be getting rid of all these files and those dates and times. So it's going to be getting rid of some DHCP log files, some interactive command log files, some messages files, and on it goes. All right. So now I want to go back to look at the show log messages, and let's do a question mark. Now look what just happened here. We iterated, or we created a new archive file, and what we will find is you'll see in that file that the log file was turned over due to a -f request. If you look that up online, you'll find that when you do this command, this request system storage cleanup dry run, it actually rotates the files, creates another one. So that's the other case. It's not always due to a size constraint that you have so much information in a log file that another one is created. Sometimes it's just due to running that dry run command. So let's go ahead and run this, clean up some of our log files. Okay. Request system storage cleanup. Let's see how long this takes. That's about 5 seconds. There we go. Delete these files. Let's say yes. And let's show log messages, question mark. And now we see we have no more archived log message files. Let's go back to interactive logs or interactive-commands files, and we also see we have no other interactive-commands files. So let's hit enter on this, and now we see it's a very small file with only the cleanup commands being executed. Show log messages. If we look at this file, there's nothing in there, only the message that it was turned over when we actually did the cleanup process. Okay, so this is another way to manage some of your log files. After you do a factory default, you might want to clean those up. Hey, before I wrap it up, I want to mention someone who made a comment about a previous video that I had made when talking about versions of the Juniper operating system. And if you look over here, you can see the version of Junos that's running on a box by typing show version. It tells you right here, this is the version number, tells you all the subcomponents of that version of the Juniper operating system that's running on this platform. But the thing that I wanted to mention is kind of just a cute little hidden command. Show version question mark will show some of the options that are there and available. However, there are often hidden commands in operating systems, sometimes referred to as Easter eggs. But one of them is show version and haiku. You can't autocomplete it by hitting the tab key or the space bar. You have to type the whole thing out. Interestingly, if I said show version and Aaron, and tried to put a question mark after it, it wouldn't do that. But interestingly, if you type a hidden command, it lets you type a question mark after it, proving that it's actually a legit hidden command. So anyway, haiku is this interesting thing, I think originated in Japan. It's a Japanese saying. And so if you go down to the bottom of the output, you have what's known as a Japanese haiku. It is a 3-line saying made up of, I think it's 12 syllables, 5, 7, and 5. So it's kind of funny. But thanks, Chad, for reminding me about show version and haiku. And I just wanted to give a shout out to you and thank you for keeping it interesting. And just wanted to show everybody out there these little cute things that are hidden in operating systems sometimes. And interestingly, you can, by the way, use the no more pipe no dash more to just, you don't have to hit the space bar. But what I want to show you is every time you do it, there's a different haiku. Haiku springs from life, like worms spring from fresh roadkill. Well, maybe not quite. Do it again. How funny. It's the same one. Let's try it again. Yeah, there's a different one now. That's funny. It showed the same one twice. There's a different one. All right, so there you have it. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there. This was a good start on that configuration basics section of the jncia-junos exam topics blueprint. Got a few bullets out of the way. There's many more to cover. I want to encourage you that these videos on my channel will hopefully set the stage for all the different things that you're going to need to dive into and learn more about. When I study for an exam, I use a lot of different sources of information. I use maybe a certified study guide. I might go to a class. For a long time, I got certified in many different levels of Cisco and then Juniper without ever even taking a class. So there's a lot of ways to get the information that you need to get smart enough to pass those exams or to be capable at your jobs. So my point, these I hope to be helpful to you to get you going in the right direction, but don't stop here. Spider out, get into some books, get into juniper.net's website, look at other vendors' websites for general networking information or the internet at large. Reach out to me. You can drop comments. I'll be glad to dialogue with you about things that you need a little bit more clarity on. All right, so this has been great, and I look forward to the next one. I want to say thank you to all the viewers out there and subscribers. You are appreciated. I just want to show you that we are growing, 308 subscribers now. And if you're not subscribing, go ahead and do that. You can see on my channel, youtube.com/Aaron Gould Network Knowledge. There's a lot of videos here related to Cisco and Juniper and general networking knowledge. And there's a lot of service provider focused things in here that hopefully will come in handy to you as you get smarter in the area of network technology for your job or for your certification pursuits. So just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate you, give you an update on things, and let's keep going.